Now, you got issues with the industry. What's going down with the industry, dog?
The industry is full of a bunch of sucking, dick riding, bending over the desk ass niggas, straight up like that. Whoever don't like it, bring it, nigga. Bring it. I don't give a fuck. Bring it. Bring it, bitch. They got this new breed of rapper that's paying DJs to play their shit.
Right.
And, you know what I'm saying? They the record label executives, and it's like there's too much of that going on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let me be me. Let me be the artist that I am and just play my motherfucking music. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now they want you all up under this, you know, sitting at the going to dinner with them and shit like that, and you know, all that favor for a favor shit. I don't get down like that. Look, I give you the music, you give my money. That's it. A lot of the love I had for wanting to be a part of the industry is not there anymore. I don't even associate myself with the industry. You know what I'm saying? I'm not an industry artist. I'm an artist in the industry.
I get a little uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable. Like he said something to me one time, a long time ago. He told me to take me shopping. I looked at him like, what'd you just say? Let me move, man, before I do something. You're gonna make me mess up the wedding.
Oh, that's a nice gesture.
Let me get out of no, dude, take me. That's what a guy says to a girl.
DMX wasn't just a rapper. He was a truth teller who never held back when it came to exposing the underbelly of the music world. Long before recent headlines, he was already speaking out about figures like Diddy and warning people about the industry's darker corners. While many ignored his words, one person who seemed to be listening was 50 Cent. DMX often described the industry as a place where people lost themselves, trading their morals for fame, playing politics, and chasing power at any cost. But he didn't just talk about it, he lived through it. Instead of folding under pressure, DMX leaned deeper into his faith. He believed that the evil he saw around him was proof that something greater, something good, had to exist. He made one thing clear. He may have worked inside the system, but he never belonged to it. DMX stayed grounded in who he was, even when it meant standing alone. That defiance is part of what made him legendary. Now, years later, disturbing allegations tied to...
And what did they do? They sold the company. They invited me into a house and they sold it. Yeah, I am mad. You know what I mean? Go right, I'm mad. I feel betrayed, man, but you know what I mean? It's a business and I'm gonna carry it like a business. But my music is still my fucking music. And you play on my music, you play on my life. You play on my life, nigga, you're gonna disappear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, things are definitely changing there, man.
Yeah, they got a whole new staff now, so I gotta go in and see what's up. You know what I'm saying?
Stories more unsettling than anyone anticipated. And suddenly, DMX's past warnings don't sound so far-fetched. In fact, they're hitting a lot closer to home. At one point, DMX shared that he intentionally turned down business with Diddy because something didn't feel right. Ironically, Diddy had originally overlooked DMX. But when Def Jam offered a major deal, Diddy tried to jump back in with a bigger offer to bring him under the Bad Boy label. Still, DMX wasn't interested. By that time, he'd already heard troubling rumors about what was really going on behind the scenes at Bad Boy Records. He chose to trust his gut and walk away. Back then, when DMX accused Diddy of robbing his artists, many assumed...
Respect about Puff, one thing I respect about him is that at least he told me to my face what he felt. He was like, his voice is too rough, he's not marketable. Maybe 3 weeks later, when he found out I was getting signed for Def Jam, he was like, yo, I'll lace your pockets. I'll double what they gave you and lace your pockets. I'm like,
if you didn't know what I was then, you just pretty much jumped on the bandwagon now.
Because if you didn't see the beast that I was then, I'm like, nah, I'm cool.
So it's a legendary story.
Like I told you, we sat down with Diddy, but he knew he wasn't going to sign with Diddy. He knew Diddy wasn't going to sign him. He knew in his mind that Diddy wouldn't want to take on problems right now.
Yayo said that you were supposed to sign the Bad Boy.
Look, they knew I was talented. They just looked at it and was like, I don't want all of the stuff that comes with it. So M stumbled over it, but he didn't know the trouble that came with it. You see what I'm saying? So I was like, yo, nah, this is perfect.
Calling out unfair contracts or money issues. But now, with a string of deeply troubling allegations coming to light, people are starting to wonder if he meant something much more direct. What was once dismissed as just bold industry talk is now being re-examined, this time with a far more serious and unsettling perspective. DMX didn't just call out Diddy. He raised concerns about a wider
DMX told us about Diddy. DMX was known for talking out about how wicked the industry actually was. He talked about how the industry would basically unalive people because they made more money off of you than alive. One thing that stuck in my mind is the fact that DMX said that he never saw Biggie smile until he passed away. He explained that you would always see happiness in a person's smile or even in their eyes, and he literally didn't ever see that from Biggie until he was in his casket. In the same interview from a long time ago, he talked about how Diddy would rip off his artists and steal their publishing.
I never saw Biggie smile until after he died. And then after he died. Hypnotized. I was like, oh! Like a smile brings a whole other light to your your face. Like, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm really good at words, but like, it's hard to explain what a smile does for a person. Because you don't just smile with your mouth. You smile with your eyes. Like, like a true smile can be seen even if a person is covering their mouth. Well, locks got signed before I did. Even though I bought the locks to our brothers, they got signed. They were a safer group. Pop signed them. And it was a blessing and a curse because they were sure they were happy about getting signed first, and they were on the Benjamins and shit was going. But then he made them jiggy and put them in suits and made them write lyrics for him and took all that publishing and like, damn. I'm glad I didn't,
And this isn't the only thing that DMX talked about. He also talked about how there were people in the industry that basically wanted to take you out to dinner and stuff to get a hold of your music. And you cannot tell me that DMX was not talking about Diddy, because the first thing that I thought of is when 50 Cent said that Diddy asked to take him shopping. DMX even explained how some of these artists would sleep with music executives to get up in the industry. And now that we know how Diddy rolls and what he was doing with people's careers, I almost guarantee you the person that DMX was talking about was Diddy.
Beneath the surface of the music industry. He warned that some rising artists were so desperate for a break, they were willing to compromise themselves in ways that had little to do with talent or music. For years, there were quiet rumors about artists being pressured into questionable situations just to earn airplay or studio time. And notably, some of those stories pointed back to Diddy. DMX recognized the pattern early on, and he didn't stay silent about it. In a track called The Industry, DMX pulled back the curtain on what the music world had become.
When you think of it now, he was grooming us. It's kind of like you're signing boy band groups and girl band groups because you like one or two of them and you want to see who's gonna go. It's nothing to you but a tax write-off, but you're really searching for a butt the whole time. So he was looking for my butt, Chopper butt, everybody butt. It wasn't nothing about the music was like, yeah, I can, and it took off to be bigger than he ever expected it to be. But Puffy coming up, he was just signing a lot of boys. Usher, it was something he figured out that R. Kelly figured out, is we can get them away from the parents. If we could get them alone, isolated, then we can get them. Once you get in a butt, it's like you on us now. What you gonna say? I got video of me in your butt. Like, how can you ever make another record? You dig what I'm saying?
A machine driven by control, image, and obedience, not talent. He didn't mince words, saying the game was no longer about skill, it was about conformity. From an artist's voice to their wardrobe, everything was shaped by the label's agenda. Step out of line, and you'd be shut out. But DMX refused to be molded. He made one thing clear. I'm not an industry artist. I'm an artist in the industry. That difference mattered. It was his way of saying he'd rather speak truth than follow trends. Now, in 2025, those lyrics hit differently. The warnings he gave about exploitation, lost integrity, and power-hungry execs, many tied to Diddy, are being revisited with fresh urgency. And as it turns out, DMX wasn't alone in calling it out. He was just one of the first to say it out loud. Instead of listening to DMX, many dismissed him.
You're fucking right, I go to Diddy parties, which is where people like me step in. To walk motherfuckers out! Cause ain't nobody stopping me when I come. Why would they talk about it? Who is there to go to? Who's gonna fucking help them? What HR department do you know of that works for any of these labels?
Yeah.
When have you ever heard of a sexual harassment suit being publicly acknowledged in the entertainment industry at all? Never. Not in entertainment.
Tupac. Remember that one? That was.
He was the only one.
Yeah.
You saw how that turned out.
Yeah.
No, guilty.
That's why they do it. To make you an example. To remind you what they're willing to do to keep things the way they want them. It's intimidation. Can't go to the authorities. They're all bought and paid for. You could try to get a special prosecutor, but they'll just pay somebody to reassign him to another case.
As erratic, unstable, and past his prime, the media leaned into that image, turning him into a cautionary headline rather than acknowledging the truths he was trying to expose. Even after his passing in 2021, coverage focused more on his struggles than his strength, often overlooking the impact he had on music and culture. Yes, DMX battled addiction and had legal issues. But one thing was always consistent. He was never accused of harming women or children. That's more than can be said for some powerful figures in the industry who face serious allegations while continuing to thrive in the spotlight. And here's the difficult part. Despite everything now coming to light, there's a real chance that someone like Diddy, backed by wealth, fame, and connections, could still avoid accountability. That's the exact kind of injustice DMX spoke out against. He saw it early and tried to warn us. Rapper 50 Cent is making headlines once again.
Let's bring in David Gelman, former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. David, welcome.
Hey, Mike, good to be here.
So in week 2 of testimony, jurors heard from a dozen witnesses as prosecutors try to prove sex trafficking and racketeering. What are your expectations when court resumes tomorrow?
It's going to be really interesting tomorrow when Diddy's third or fourth assistant takes a stand, and she's going to actually corroborate Kid Cudi's testimony from last week, where he said that Diddy and another associate of his bombed his Porsche years ago at his house. Now, you have to have corroboration about that because nobody can put Diddy there. And in fact, nobody even can say Diddy's the actual one who did it. But if they can say that Diddy or an associate of his did it, then you may have a racketeering charge there. Because right now, as it stands, Mike, nothing, and I mean nothing, is sticking to Diddy.
Diddy's lawyers are trying to make the case that his escapades do not amount to federal crimes. How difficult is that argument?
I think they're doing a fantastic job, honestly. Look, everybody has said, and Diddy's lawyers even said it in their opening statement, Diddy is not a good guy. There's a lot of domestic violence that occurred between him and Cassie in their relationship. However, what we've heard so far from the testimony of Cassie and the other individuals does not amount to the federal charges that he's being charged with right now. I'm not going to say anything that we heard is very good because it's all horrific. However, the state or the government in this particular instance needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he conspired to racketeer, to sex traffic, and to promote prostitution. So far, they're falling way behind in this. And I know there's a lot more to go in this trial because they're saying it's going to be about 8 weeks. But the government really better step on the gas because they don't have a lot more time to go.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all of that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with. There's a possibility, and I'm saying a very strong possibility right now, that Diddy could walk, that he could be spending 4th of July at home having a barbecue.
By stepping into the political arena to take a stand against any potential leniency for Diddy. According to 50, he's planning to contact former President Donald Trump directly, urging him not to consider a pardon if Diddy is found guilty of the serious charges he's facing. The move follows an unexpected exchange during a White House press conference on Friday. Standing next to Elon Musk, Trump was asked about Diddy's ongoing federal case, which includes racketeering among other allegations. His answer caught many off guard, saying he'd be open to the idea of a pardon. 50 Cent responded swiftly and publicly. Taking to Instagram, he reminded his followers of Diddy's past comments about Trump, writing, "This guy said some really foul things." He added that he plans to make sure Trump knows exactly where he stands. In a follow-up post, he pointedly noted, "Donald doesn't take kindly to disrespect. He remembers who's loyal." Tensions between 50 and Diddy have been simmering for years, and courtroom testimony has only added fuel to the fire. Former Bad Boy executive Capricorn Clark testified about a heated moment after an MTV event where Diddy reportedly told his manager, "I don't like all the back and forth. I like guns." The comment, allegedly made in an elevator, struck a nerve, especially for 50 Cent, who survived a near-fatal shooting back in 2000. Capricorn Clark's account didn't stop there. Her statements have opened the door to more shocking claims from inside Diddy's inner circle, and the courtroom is still feeling the impact.
Her explosive testimony in the federal sex trafficking trial against Sean Diddy Combs.
Yeah, today jurors heard from Capricorn Clark. She was a former employee of Combs who testified that the music mogul kidnapped and threatened her during her time working for him. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges in the case.
NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas is outside the courthouse for us once again in New York City. Chloe, what did Clark say on the stand today?
It was incredibly riveting. She was emotional just a few moments ago. She actually apologized to the judge for crying so much. This is a woman who was a personal assistant for Combs at one point and then held various roles on and off over the course of 14 years. And she talked about this one moment from December 2011 when she says that Combs was furious when he found out that Cassie had been cheating on him with musician Kid Cudi. Remember, Kid Cudi, whose real name is Scott Muscudi, he testified last week. And so now we're getting a fuller picture of her version of what happened in December 2011 when Combs allegedly broke into Kid Cudi's house after he found out that Cassie and Kid Cudi were having this relationship. And she says that Combs showed up to her apartment early in the morning with a gun and kidnapped her, forced her to go with him to break into Kid Cudi's home. And then she said that she stayed back in the car and she called Cassie and warned her what was going on. She also says that later that morning she returned to Sean Combs' house after he had her go and get Cassie and bring her to him. She says that that's when she witnessed Combs violently beat up Cassie and her to the point that she fell to the ground in a fetal position, and that he continued to kick all the way from the front threshold of this mansion to the street. And she says that she was so worried for Cassie's life that she actually called her mother, Regina Ventura, and told her to call 911. But this is slightly different, you guys, than what we heard on the stand from Kid Cudi. Also, when we heard Regina Ventura take the stand, we didn't hear about that call from Capricorn Clark. So, it's really interesting for me to sit in this courtroom and you hear little bits and pieces of these alleged events. And so it's going to be really interesting to hear what the jury eventually thinks in a few weeks. And I also want to point out that it looks like the prosecution might actually be running ahead of schedule, and they may only have just about 4 weeks left of their case before they hand it over to the defense.
And Chloe, who else are we expecting to see on the stand this week?
So today we're expecting to hear from some of the individuals that got to the scene of Kid Cudi's car explosion a few weeks after this alleged kidnapping. Remember, he said last week on the stand that Combs was so angry about his relationship with Cassie going on behind his back that he was behind this Molotov cocktail being put into his Porsche convertible. And we saw pictures of the damage of his Porsche last week. So we're expecting to hear from some of the firefighters and the police officers that were leading this investigation.